Now batting for the Reds, number 44, the shortstop, Billy Through.
Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast. I'm Roger, that's Ricky, and it is Sunday, 8 p.m. We are live, and I'm finally unmuted, so we're good to go, I think, going forward. We got with us a special guest, a good friend of the podcast, Just Baseball writer that covers the Reds, and here to share his takes and his thoughts about the Red Legs in spring training, Mr. Clay Snowden. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back.
Hey, guys. Yeah.
How are you doing?
Thanks for inviting me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Always welcome. We're really excited because I'm back. I'm back in Ohio finally after my little gallivant down in Arizona. So I'm excited to talk Red Legs and I was go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt you, but I saw that you're out there, and I wanted to ask you before we got on the show, just how was it? I know it's your podcast. I don't want to hijack it, but I want you to kind of talk about spring training. I'm dying to know, man. I'm so glad that you got the opportunity to go.
Yeah, we can get into this more. I'll try to keep it short now before we launch into the show, into the meat of it, and all the topics of the day. But in a word, awesome. Because I guess also in another word, disorienting. Because it's kind of crazy. We went to the backfields where they practice at the facility at Goodyear and saw the minor league and the major league camp practice, getting their drills in before they have the game at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Eastern and whatnot. But being so close to it, I felt like I was missing out on what was happening throughout everywhere else in baseball. Like I have no idea what's going on in the World Baseball Classic. I have no idea what's happening with other teams or whatnot. It was kind of crazy to be up so close and personal with a lot of these guys. And like Ricky knows, we've made some friends and even some guys in the DSL. So I actually got to practice a little bit of my broken Spanish with them to try to communicate and whatnot. So it was really kind of close to really cool to be that close to them. Really cool to interact with these guys that are, on the verge. We spent a lot of time in the minor section because actually it's free to go up to the minors. And if you saw any of the pictures and whatnot, you could just walk up to these guys. I know it's a bit intimidating because a lot of them are huge and monstrous human beings just on its face. But overall, awesome experience. Really glad to see some of the friends of the podcast. Shout out Trevor Kunsel. He actually got us passes to get into a section for the majors that get even closer, which I actually ended up talking to Andrew Abbott's dad, up close and personal. And it was good to talk to him because he loved talking baseball and talking, shop and whatnot. So it was kind of cool to just get behind there. Saw also Charlie G. I should have probably asked him to try to get on the pod, but he's a busy man. He's going all over the place all the time. But beside that, to answer your question, it was awesome. Actually, I think I told my wife and told everybody this on Thursday. It was 68 degrees in Arizona, or Friday, or whatever it was, and 80 degrees back home. So I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. I got to have a sweatshirt and long pants on in Arizona. Get out of here. But anyway, besides that, it was great.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah. So, but we'll launch in the show. Some topics of the day that we're wanting to go through with you, Clay, is that we have a lot of different things that happened. We had a trade. We had an opening day starter named. We got spring training results that we're going to try to make, hay out of and see if it's actually worth it or if it's just spring training. We toss it aside kind of thing. The Hunter Greene situation, top 30 list was named. I don't even know exactly where to start, but I think for at least our topic sheet, we'll talk about the offense. So how have you seen this 50 runs in 3 days offense output so far in spring training? What were your initial thoughts, Clay?
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer or anything, but Pitchers are always behind hitters in spring training. It takes a while, so I'm not entirely surprised. There's elements, there's all kinds of kind of caveats that it is good to see. It does not mean that it automatically translates to a much better offense this season. Spring training stats, which I'm sure we'll talk about, are misleading often. Pitchers sometimes are just working on certain things. Like, I'm going to throw my fastball 6 straight times to see if I can locate it. And if it gets hit, we don't care because internally we know the plan is just to do just that. Uh, but it is good to see, like, at the end of the day, the players still did what they did, right? You can see that they have the ability to do X, Y, and Z. Matt McClain, what he's done this spring has been one of the bigger things that I have been looking for. I wanted to just see how healthy he looked. Would his swings look more confident? Would he be able to take more pitches that are outside of the zone and not swing at bad pitches, 3 inches above the zone? And so far, he's checked those boxes, and there's a long list of players that we could go through that have looked good. But overall, regardless of the caveats that I put on it, at the end of the day, it could be the opposite, and they could be struggling, and that would be a huge concern.
Yeah. Ricky?
Yeah, it's like you get Matt McClain who homers in like 3 straight games. Which is he going to be who we thought he was, in 23, or is he going to be who we hoped he was in 25? And then is he going to be laying in the middle somewhere where he's not? Because obviously he's not going to be the same player he was last year, but I don't think he's going to be the same player he was in 23 either. Could he be better than 23? Yeah, there's a chance, but like he's somewhere in the middle of where he was between those 2 seasons. But like I'm more worried about the guys like Christian Encarnacion Strand. How's he looking in the spring training? Will Benson's hitting the ball hard. Like Ellie, just what he's doing from the right side of the plate is exciting, especially that home run he hit on Saturday or Friday. 700-foot home run, right-handed. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I want to see like JJ Bleday, how he's doing, Nathaniel Lowe, like those kind of guys who we like are fringe roster competitors. And it seems like to me, like the one that's like catching my eye the most is Nathaniel Lowe. Like he looks like he could make the roster, and that's exciting. But then like, what do you do with him? Like, you can only have so many DH first base players, and we have 3 of them if he makes the roster. So it's a little tough decision to make, but they could also run with 5 outfielders.
Yeah.
I just wrote an article, I don't think it's been published yet, about rostering Bleday and Benson and if that's possible and all the implications, the trickle-down effect of doing so. The Reds have done some odd roster management last year. They carried 3 catchers in order to save Austin Wynns for maybe a month, and he got like 4 at-bats. So I don't think that Tito, I don't want to say doesn't value the roster. That's a horrible thing to say. I just think that he is a little bit more lenient than most managers maybe. And carrying that many outfielders, or the inverse being carrying 3 kind of first base DH, third base break glass in case of emergency type players, is odd. And I don't know if we plan on really diving into that or not, but the thing that matters to me is it's not on paper. Opening day doesn't make sense. Yeah, because McClain can move here and this guy can move there and there and there. Like, all that is great. What do you do when a player gets injured, but not enough to go on the 40-day? Now they've got 3 days that they can't play. What do you do when you're in game, 102? And it's fine on paper, but in practice, it is so much more difficult. If you pinch hit, like if you have Bleday and Benson, and you pinch hit for Brian Hayes in the 7th inning with Benson. Okay, Benson can't play third. So you're not going to move Marte to third, at least I hope not. So then Benson comes out, then you're burning another player. Okay, now does Lowe come in, or excuse me, now does Steer come in to play first and you move Stewart to third? Like, you're burning 2 players there. Now, if Lowe makes the team, then he could move to first as a pinch hit. So like there's all these trickle down, like in practice, when you really start simulating scenarios in your head over and over, it's much harder to kind of construct the roster than I think that a lot of people are thinking about for just opening day.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the one thing that came to mind when you're talking about these roster decisions that are coming down to the last 26 is at least we're not in a situation in 2024 where Bubba Thompson's making the team and we're not really fielding 26 major leaguers. If Nathaniel Lowe is number 27 or the 26 guy, at least we know he's a bona fide major leaguer. And we're not also carrying like last year with Austin Hayes getting hurt right before opening day, kind of carrying a 50% only can hit Spencer Steer. So like we're at least, I think right now, March 8th, 2026, in a spot where we have healthy players competing for roster positions that hopefully will be making the team better and a solid ball club going into Cincinnati opening day. But like, I don't know, there is a lot of things that can change from here until then. Like obviously, like you said, Austin Hayes got hurt 2 days before opening day and put him on the IL for rolling his ankle or whatever it was. But like there's a lot to be seen. The point that you said that kind of was in my head as well, because I feel like I've said that at least to myself, is like 50 runs in 3 days is great. Spring training bloated, over the wind blowing out in that Dodgers game kind of, makes the numbers a lot bigger than they should be. But the alternative of not hitting, which they've kind of gone a little bit quiet, except for the one game against the D-backs today where they got 14. But like the last couple of days been a little bit slim pickings in terms of getting like 3 or 4, maybe 2 runs, 1 run. So like, I think I'd rather have them have these ridiculous outputs where they're hitting home runs, at a crazy clip, because at least then like you said, they have the ability to do it, as opposed to, if they're getting shut down by minor leaguers and shut down by guys that are not maybe going to make the team, that would be rough.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those deals where it's like LeBron James making his free throws. Like you don't think about it until he starts missing them, and then you start thinking about it. It's the same idea. Like I'm not going to take too much away from the offense playing well, because there's so many factors that are not going to be able to be duplicated when you move it to the regular season. You're not going to be playing these games in Arizona every day at kind of odd start times with these level of pitchers working on certain mechanics. Like there's so many factors that will not move back to Cincinnati with them. But if they were playing poorly, you would say, okay, now this is a problem. It's kind of a lose. It's not a lose-lose or win-win or anything. It's just kind of like there has to be these asterisks and these explanations next to each of these performances.
Just wanted to point this comment out. It made me laugh.
Some anti-LeBron rhetoric here.
Roger, I don't want to scare you too much, but Garrett Hampson is still on this roster.
Yeah, and the day that we went and saw him, I think he went over 3 and 3 strikeouts. So I'm not too worried about that.
I am amazed. Baseball is one of those sports that players like him stick around so much longer than other sports. There's so many of these players that I do not know how they're getting paid American currency to play baseball for as long as they do. There is one thing about the roster when we talk about construction, who makes it, who doesn't, these decisions. There can still be a middle infielder or more of a traditional backup infielder added. We saw that with Santiago Espinal a couple of years ago. He was added late in spring. There's going to be waiver wire players that hit the waiver wire that don't have options left, players that you don't expect, like those minor moves at the end of spring training are always there. So you always kind of have to keep that in the back of your mind when you're projecting a roster, especially if we see another injury come up. There could be a minor trade. There could be those players at the end of the 40-man, whether it be the Reds or other teams that say, oh, yeah, we need to move this off. The Reds have 35 outfielders on their 40-man. Would it be too shocking to see Rhys Hines traded for whatever position the Reds may be short on? I don't think so. I'm not predicting that Hines gets traded or anything, but that's the type of scenario where we have a roster that's heavy here and light here. Let's see if we can make a trade just to balance it.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to scare either of you, but Santiago Espinal is now becoming prime Mike Trout and Barry Bonds. So watch out for that incoming season from Santiago.
Okay, man.
Yeah, it's just I think that's
baseball's a funny sport, man. You have a career year in 24. you don't do a damn thing in 25 and you come back and you shell your old team.
Yeah, but I think that's what Clay's talking about. The mirage of spring training can be very, very thick and make even Nick Senzel look pretty good, so there's that as well. But yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on the offense in this spring and whatnot from you two?
No.
Well,
nothing for me.
Speaking of trades, I'll go into this one. We had a trade in Cincinnati. We no longer have Tyler Callahan, a guy that we talked about a little bit in the show, and I had predicted that he might get more at bats than a Reese Hines or Will Benson. I guess he could in Pittsburgh, but that's neither there. But also the guy that got back for it is Kyle Nicholas, right? And he's actually pitching in the World Baseball Classic, I believe, for Team Italy, I believe. So he hasn't even shown up for spring training yet. I guess after the World Baseball Classic, whenever Italy's done, he'll show up. But Clay, what were your thoughts when that trade went down? Callahan for Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, it's a low-level trade in my opinion. These are guys who are going to be fringe types, but the thing with Nicholas is he has disgusting stuff. If you see his breaking ball, his slider, you will quickly notice like that guy stands out, but he cannot locate it, and that's been the issue with him. It's just throwing strikes, and it's pretty typical, right? We see a reliever. Wow, look at the stuff. Oh my gosh, he walks 4 per 9 or 5 per 9, and then they bounce to a different roster, and the next team gets excited about the stuff. Oh my gosh, he can't throw a strike. That's a tale as old as time. Callahan moving off the roster or off the 40-man, it's not too surprising to me. I thought he was fine, perfectly fine utility. I like the fact that he was a left-handed bat, considering how few the Reds have. But at the end of the day, I just don't really know where he would have fit in. He would have had another season in the minors, and maybe he gets called up and plays some quasi-utility role. But typically, you want your utility player to play more than just a left field and a second base. You would like to see more versatility, especially for the Reds, who could use different positions than those two. So I didn't mind it. I think that the Reds bullpen is decent, but I don't think that it has a ton of depth. And with how Luis May and Zach Maxwell are a similar mold to golly, Kyle Nicholas. Sorry, I just blanked on his name there.
Oh, good.
In which they can't locate their stuff either. Hopefully one of these guys can click, right? And that's really all you need at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far he has pitched in 2 appearances for Pittsburgh in spring training. He's allowed 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, no walks. Like he said, it's spring training. I don't know a whole lot about him. Just from what I've seen online, he does have electric stuff. He probably starts in the minors when he comes here, probably AAA, right? I would assume. To me, Callahan, I think he had the least upside between a lot of the fringe major leaguers that we have, other than being a utility guy. You look at the potential of the power from Hines and the power from Benson, you could use that. And I kind of see him and Blake Dunn as similar players, other than the infield aspect for Callahan. But yeah, it was unfortunate though, because we didn't really get to see too much out of him last year with the injury that he had, which should have been called an out.
Yeah, for sure. That Atlanta series sticks out after that injury. I guess the way I've been thinking about it, the way you guys talk about it, it feels like a very. I guess I should make the claim that it seems like Terry Francona isn't involved in the front office and trades, because I saw Callahan as a very Francona type guy. Gavin Lux model of that left field, second base contact hitter, will move the runner over. All the things that Tito seems to preach and Felica seem to preach. And then you're talking about, he's got low upside, but I thought they were more of hey, I'd rather know what I have in my guy and trust it, rather than have a Reese Hines who will strike out 40% of the time and maybe hit the occasional home run that gets us the win or gets us competitive in a game or ties it up or whatever. And then the same thing I guess for Nicholas is having a guy like May and Maxwell. I would think the way that Francona runs his bullpen is he doesn't want those guys that he doesn't know what they're going to have that on any given day. Like that's why I think the Pierce Johnson thing, they may have even overpaid. That $6.5 million seemed high from what I could tell at the time, but maybe it's something that they were looking to get. It's someone that's a veteran like Pagan, a veteran, the Pierce Johnson type that you know what you're getting anytime he comes out there and is making an appearance out of the bullpen. I guess I'm just trying to come to grips. Like, what were they looking to get? Just to open up the 40 man, maybe then, like you were saying, get a guy off that, so that way they have more flexibility. I don't know. It seems a very anti-Francona trade.
I just think that they're comfortable with what they have at second base for their depth. In terms of like Sal Stewart playing second, and Matt McClain, and at this point it was just, I think that they needed another pitcher on the 40 man as an option, and this came available, and you might as well go ahead and make it and give Callahan a chance to win a spot in Pittsburgh. And even though I don't think that he will, at least he has a shot to.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think Carrick puts in the chat. He thinks that Nicholas is on the 40 man also. It really would just be an even swap.
Yeah, he is.
And as far as like infield depth, we were talking about earlier, I think an option that you do have towards the end of the season would be promoting Edwin Arroyo if he's still on the team. What he would be like your second base, shortstop, infield depth, but you hope not to have to come to that, just because I don't think his bat's major league ready yet, but he is a defensive option, I guess. And yeah, it's like if we have 3 pitchers that have electric stuff but just can't locate it, and it's unfortunate because I think Maxwell and May both have closer stuff in the future when Pagan's no longer here, and depending on what happens with Santillan in the future, it's like, if they could just get command, like our bullpen could be one of the best bullpens in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's Maxwell's still working out in the big league camp. I know that May got worked or optioned down recently. I can't remember if I saw that or not, but he's been working out in the minor league camp when I was there. So there's that. Maybe they see something in Maxwell at the present moment, and he might make the roster at 26 man and in opening day. I don't know. There's a possibility. I'm not exactly sure what they see, but he's been working out with the big leaguers every single day I was down there. So take that for what it's worth. So, any other thoughts about Mr. Callahan? I'm actually, I like I said, Ricky, I don't know what's going on with me, and I think Clay actually was a first person and witness of my takes of River San Martin. And the next day he's gone, and then a couple shows ago I'm like, oh yeah, Tyler Callahan, he's gonna get like 150 at bats at least, and then okay, well he's gone too. So
I don't know what it is about
Don't
Clay
talk about
being
any
on
of the good players, okay?
I know, I actually feel like I'm going to be putting Francisco or Baez in a really rough spot because I keep talking him up. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, any other thoughts about Tyler Callahan and Kyle Nicholas? There was other big news. Unfortunately, we'll get to the Hunter Greene stuff. But on a positive note, because Hunter Greene is possibly going on the IL and won't be ready for opening day, All-Star Andrew Abbott was named opening day starter for your Redlegs. And that, I think, everyone can possibly say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's no problem there. Having him start on against the Red Sox in a couple weeks is fantastic. But yeah, what were your first thoughts, Clay, when you heard the news?
The news of him starting on opening day, or the Hunter Greene injury news?
We'll go with the positive first, the Abbott.
I thought it was great for Abbott. He's by no means underrated within the well, I guess he could be underrated, but he has just pitched well. And I know that he has these advanced metrics that each year he outperforms. There's going to be outliers. Anybody that studies statistics understands how outliers work, and he might just be one, and that's okay to have that. I just thought that he earned it. Like at this point, how well he pitched last year, Hunter Greene gets injured. Like you could have gone with Nick Lodolo, or you could have gone with somebody else, but at this point, like Andrew Abbott has earned it, and I'm excited for him. Obviously, it's kind of well, you're getting it because the Hunter Greene injury news, which is really the big news here. And man, I don't know. Like at this point, like Hunter Greene's just, often injured. And that's kind of how a lot of players who pitch the way that he does, they get injured often. That's just how it is. And I think that it's important. As much as we can all be upset about the Hunter Greene injury news, he is on such a good contract that even if you get 120 innings out of him a year and that's it, I'm not saying that this is good, but 120 innings of Hunter Greene at 16 million or whatever it is still just fantastic value. So I don't think it's a horrible contract, something they need to trade, blah blah blah. But it is a concern that he's often injured and that the Reds have not gotten a full season out of him yet. And at this point, that just may be who he is. And you just have to learn to kind of figure out a lane to deal with that. And for me, it's what I just said. Okay, if you get 120, 130, 140 innings out of him, I still think he's worth the contract. And now the Reds do have the type of depth that makes stomaching it easier. It does not replace him. He is one of the better pitchers in the game. But you don't have to backfill with a fringe major leaguer. You have Rhett Lauder. You have Brandon Williamson. You have some more depth too that you can work with. So the news sucks. We do not know how long he'll be out. We do not know how he'll pitch when he gets back. That's just, speculation at this point. But knowing that you have someone like Rhett Lauder, a top 10 pick who is a top 100 prospect that's looks great so far in spring, that can fill in, does make it easier to stomach.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have something coming out on that, either tonight or tomorrow. It's unfortunate having to deal with Greene's just injury history, I guess. And of course, Mark Sheldon's out there like pumping his fists. It's like, I told you. But it's like having somebody like Rhett Lauder, Chase Burns, and Brandon Williamson, all three that are, very good options to have as your fifth starter, is nice to have. I guess going to Abbott, like, I think me and Roger, I think I told you this a few weeks ago. I said I had a feeling that Abbott was going to be the starter for opening day, just to kind of, the Reds have stuck it to Hunter Greene over the last couple of years, trying to light a fire under him. He doesn't get pitcher of the year in 24. Nick Martinez gets it. He doesn't get it last year either. Andrew Abbott got it. So it's like, in Hunter Greene's mind, what does he got to do to get it? But then in our mind, it's like he's got to pitch a full season. He hasn't done that yet in his career, and Abbott gets rewarded for it. And he's had some shaky starts this spring. He's been giving up contact and not looking his best, but it is also spring, and it kind of worries you a little bit because opening day you're still not there yet. But he's very deserving of it. I'm excited for him. It is kind of fun to see, an opening day starter. He's going up against Garrett Crochet, who has the electric fastball, all these crazy pitches, and you got Abbott throwing 94 and with the curveball and the sweeper and the cutter. So it's kind of in a way, a throwback for Abbott starting on opening day.
Yeah, lefty versus lefty opening day. That's you don't see that much. And yeah, I characterize it. Arbaez started in the split squad and got a hit today. So yeah, at least he's still in the organization as far as I know. So.
I had a comment on Instagram. Ryan McChrystal chimes in. He says, out of the sun in Arizona, Roger, into the dark room.
Oh, he's watching us. Yeah. Hey, shout out! You said Ryan is watching. Shout out Ryan. He got a home run today, man, and he definitely earned his spot today. And yeah, we saw him in the inner squads yesterday, and he was working it. He roped one, and I don't know. I don't know if he's listening. I don't want to put him out there too much, but I've been really asking him every single time I see him, like, hey, how's your golf game? So he lights up when you ask about his golf game. So if you want to talk shop with Ryan McChrystal, man, he said I think he did a scramble with Cecilia's his fiance and John Michael Fail, and I think his significant other. So shout out to those guys playing golf out there in Arizona in their free time. So.
Yeah, he's a. I'm not just saying this because we talked about him, but he's a very underrated catching prospect in this organization, and I don't think he gets enough credit.
Yeah. Well, also shout out to him. He made the spring breakout pool list along with a bunch of other guys that we follow. Trevor Kunsel, Hervin Murillo. I'm losing it already with the guys. Oh yeah, Kian Vu's going to be there too. So yeah, that should be good. I think our guy Mike Ballantyne, he said he's going to try to watch the spring breakout game that's coming up in what, the 19th or whatnot. I think.
So I have the full roster here if you want it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Pitchers: Julian Aguilar, Edgar Colon, Jose Franco, Luke Holman, Trevor Kunsel, Sheng-En Lin, David Ludroy, Rhett Lauder, Zach Maxwell, Jose Montero, Mason Morris, JP Ortiz, Chase Petty, Starlin Torres, Davi Villafana, and Aaron Watson are your pitchers. Alfredo Duno, Cade Hunter, Ryan McChrystal, Hervin Murillo are your catchers. Alfredo Alcantara, Edwin Arroyo, Leo Balcazar, Ricky Cabrera, Cam Collier, Ty Doucette, Steele Hall, Tyson Lewis, Carlos Sanchez, Sal Stewart, and Rafael Torres are your infielders. And your outfielders are Jay Allen, Kyle Henley, Carlos Jorge, Arnoldo Lantigua, Mason Neville, Eli Pitts, Hector Rodriguez, Adolfo Sanchez, and Kian Vu.
Yeah, it's nice. I hope those guys have a great game. We'll check in with Mike at the game, I guess, to see how it goes, because I don't think they're going to probably stream that or anything. But to get back to the Abbott conversation that we were having, I think before the show, I think I was talking about how I got passes from Trevor Kunsel to go behind and talk to a Mr. David Abbott, Andrew Abbott's dad, which was nice because got some little intel, because it sounded like Andrew Abbott's been he's been building up to this moment probably, and this is kind of the crowning achievement to at least show, like, he had the All-Star last year. And now his dad has said he only took 2 weeks off in the offseason, got a little bit of time in Virginia with his folks and whatnot, and got to the beach a little bit. But he's been working every other time he can. So this is kind of great. At least I wanted to put this in here into the notes to be like, yeah, let's celebrate Andrew Abbott, man, because he deserves this opportunity. And I believe that he'll take advantage of it, because he wants to probably keep improving year on year, keep this ball club progressing year on year, so that they take the steps forward to achieve hopefully the ultimate goal, getting to that World Series and winning it. So shout out to them, shout out to those guys that were on the spring breakout as well. So
yeah, I feel like Abbott could have very well have been the opening day starter, even with the healthy Hunter Greene. Like I think just based off the season that he had, and you're maybe playing matchups too early in the season. Red Sox are a good team, very left-handed orientated lineup. I mean, it's possible he starts anyway, and then eventually you work your way back into Hunter Greene being your number one starter.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, any other thoughts with that Abbott situation, Hunter? Let's get into the Hunter Greene then, because I feel like that is kind of part and parcel, a little yin yang of this conversation we're just having with Abbott. I don't know where to take this conversation first. It's not his fault, obviously, that he's getting injured as much as he is. I believe he probably, just as much as Abbott, takes care of his body 12 months a year, just like a lot of these guys do nowadays. And I don't know exactly what to attribute it to. He's obviously a flamethrower, so maybe that's the situation that really kind of lends to these possible type of injuries. But last year was a groin, right, or somewhere around the lower back and whatnot. So it's not the same thing over and over again with Hunter Greene. But I don't know, Clay. Where do we do with this Hunter Greene situation? Is this just, like you said, is this 120 innings and we should be happy and keep it moving?
Yeah, I wouldn't say happy, but it may just be the reality of the situation, and nobody's more upset about it than Hunter Greene. Like, I know that there's been some people thinking he doesn't work hard or whatnot. Charlie Goldsmith in his podcast, I think came out the other day, was talking about he sees Greene working. He sees him running steps and, like, putting in work. Like, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that he's soft or anything. I don't understand why this came up at the end of the last year and they did not do surgery. And I'm not a doctor and I don't know anything about that. All I know is that it just sucks. Like, you knew that there was an issue at the end of last year. They elected not to do surgery, which I know has happened with other players before. But now we're sitting here with an injury in March. And that's the disturbing part. And we saw, and again, not a doctor, we saw a similar type of injury scenario with Tristan McKenzie of the Guardians. This was 2 years ago, I believe it was. He elected not to get surgery, and it bothered him, and he was all kinds of screwed up. I don't think that's going to be the case with Green. I'm not comparing the two, but I am just saying we've seen this type of scenario go south before. Um, what leads to surgery and what doesn't, I'm not even sure. But man, it just sucks to know that all off season there could have been something potentially done, and for whatever reason they elected not to. And I don't know what it's going to look like. That's the hard part. It's not a video game where he comes off the IL and he's 93 overall rating automatically. We don't know what it's going to look like, and that's the troubling part.
Yeah, I think what's concerning is the fact that what you said is it was dating back to last year, and it still bothers him now. And for somebody who has the injury history that he's had, you would think that you would want to try to address it, and maybe, because I think it kind of took a lot of us off guard when it was announced that he was dealing with it last year, because we all knew about the groin and the back injury that he was dealing with for 2 months almost. And now when you hear the initial report was Hunter Greene's dealing with an elbow injury. It's like, oh great, here we go again. Flamethrower. Hopefully you don't see a second Tommy John surgery and ruin his career potentially. Then you find out it's bone spurs, and it's like, okay, it's a little easier to swallow. But then you see the comparisons with Tristan McKenzie, and he was a very highly touted prospect for Cleveland, and it never really took off the way they had hoped, and then the injury happened, and he just kind of fell off. And you really hope that doesn't happen with Greene. And like you said, we're not a doctor. We're not giving medical advice to anybody out there, but it's unfortunate. And for somebody who has the contract that he has, and it's such a great contract, and I feel like that's part of the reason why we're not seeing any extension talks between Lodolo or anybody else, is because they don't want to have the same contract that Greene got. And it's just unfortunate because, he's your ace. When he goes out, Hunter Greene's the best pitcher in on the team, and rivals Paul Skeens on a good day, and he to have a pitcher that can be a Cy Young caliber pitcher, but just doesn't have the health to make it work, is just unfortunate. And you want to see it happen. You want to see him out there and pitch. Like you said, Goldsmith says that he's putting in the work, and I believe it. He doesn't strike me as a guy who doesn't work hard. It's just unfortunate to have the injury bug that just seems to plague Cincinnati Stars.
Yeah, for sure. And the give the perspective of how camp was, I think I was flying in on Wednesday, and that's when the news broke, and I actually got off the plane and was like, what happened? I was like, let's talk about the disorienting thing that I was talking about before. It's I had no idea what was going on until our buddy Mike told me, basically. And this was 9:00 local time by the time that I figured out that Hunter Greene was not feeling good. But the next day and the next couple days, it's just business as usual. I'm not thinking that they're being callous and so much oh, this is just Hunter Greene doing Hunter Greene stuff and being, injured all the time. I think it was just more I think the job at hand is the 162 that's ahead of them. And they probably hope that Hunter Greene is going to be there for the majority of those 162, pitching as many starts as he can. But I don't know if they're, abandoning all hope. And now all of a sudden the red season's done for. And now they're just going to pack it all in and say, hey, we had a good run. 2025 is nice. 2026, not so much. I feel like you had mentioned the depth before, Clay, is that it's there. We don't have to freak out if Hunter Greene's not pitching 30 starts a season. It's not going to totally disrupt the whole season if he's not out there. Hopefully he's there more than half the season. But anyway, the point being is that they have, I think, enough. And there's always that adage, you can't have enough good starting pitching. the Reds seem to try to prescribe to that by adding and adding and adding, at least drafting and develop and getting guys out there that can do the job and go deep in games. So I guess my overall takeaway is that I hope it's not serious. I hope he can get through this. I hope is surgery actually a possibility, or is that something that they've just floated out there? I guess I'm not sure.
From what I've seen, I don't think they're completely ruling it out, but I don't think it seems likely.
Okay. Well, that being said, hopefully that this is just kind of a little blip on the radar, and we can hopefully get through this again. Obviously, there's the documented Mark Sheldon stuff that happened June, July that the organization, and hopefully that doesn't creep in again, where the organization is kind of putting pressure on him to get going again into whatever rehab, into whatever, ramping up period that he needs to get back to being a major league starter. So we'll see on that. I don't know. It's kind of, we'll have to wait and see, I guess, is my biggest takeaway. But yeah, Clay, Ricky, have you any thoughts on this? Again, feel like deja vu all over again with Hunter Greene.
I guess that kind of sums up why he's got a 36 ERA in his one spring training outing.
Yeah, that's one thing. I guess, I don't know, the discomfort would really take away from his ability to, I don't know, spring training. We can get into that, like the spring training results. We kind of touched on that a little bit. Like what should we glean from these 17 or 15 or 16 games I believe they've played? What should we not consider like part of it? Like, are we just kind of in a situation where, at least for me, I feel like we just got to get healthy. Just make sure we're healthy by March 26th. Is that the biggest thing, or should we take some bigger takeaways from these last games, Clay?
Yeah, to me, it's just seeing how players look. It's not so much the results, but how they get to those results. If you hit a blooper into right field and the 28-year-old career minor leaguer takes a bad route and it falls in for a single and you get an RBI, it's not the same as roping a 111 mile per hour liner up the middle. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to kind of grade it on a curve. For me, like watching Matt McClain, like I said earlier, just look more comfortable, hit a ball out to right center on a good swing. Like, it's stuff like that. It's less results. And I know it's going to sound like I'm knocking on him. I'm not. Just the next thing that came to mind was like Will Benson's inside the park home run was kind of like a ground ball, and it went to the corner and it got lost and it was stuck in the corner. Like, it goes down as a home run, right? Like, I'm not taking that away from him, but there's always like scenarios like, how did you get to these results is a lot more important than the results. And sometimes on the pitching side, you may see a player have 3 up, 3 down, but they only threw 6 strikes in 18, 20 pitches. Like, it's stuff like that I look for more. And just to make sure certain players are hitting certain marks. Can a player play this position that he's being put in? Okay, he looks comfortable there. Oh my gosh, he looks completely lost. Does Sal Stewart's swing look good? Is he in good shape? Like, things that are easier to check the box than, well, this player hit 472. He's got to be on the opening day roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing me and Roger and I had talked about, we were live for Hunter Greene's debut game this spring, and CES we were talking about him being a possibility of making the roster, and I was like, I just want to see him have just not chase bad pitches, not swing at balls at his eyeball, and sure enough, like he was, and I'm like, all right, like maybe this is just a player that he is, and maybe he's always just going to be a fringe major league player that has ultimate power, like a William Opeña type player, And then you're seeing like Matt McClain, he's taking balls the other way. He's looking good and confident with the strike zone. Like the home runs that he hit, he's not just pulling the ball; he's taking them out to center field, right center field. And like I think Abbott had mentioned after his first or second game, he had talked about wanting to like try to feel out ABS and stuff. And maybe that's just what you look at, but I don't know, Roger. I feel like looking at guys that are like fringe talents. You know, are they going to learn like with CES and not chase and look just kind of clueless at the plate?
Yeah, yeah, learning the major league game. A lot of these guys that are getting thrown in there, it could be going up also against other fringe talent. So I feel like the thing that comes to mind is context matters, right?
Yeah.
Like seeing a situation where they're going up minor leaguers versus minor leaguers. Well, we know if they're getting the better of other minor leaguers and whatnot, you know, not to take away anything away from Reese Hines, but like his home run to win them the game in the bottom of the ninth in that Dodger game, it's like, yeah, I don't know if that Dodger pitcher is necessarily going to be the first guy out of the bullpen for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So the context matters a little bit in that way. It's nice to get the win over the pesky Dodgers and whatnot, but there was also a situation that happened that I want to kind of bring to mind in terms of just spring training results or spring training process and looking through like what the organization and coaching staff are looking for. In that same game, Hector Rodriguez hit a pop-up that looked like it was going to go out of play. And again, a little bit of the wind playing into this a bit. It pushed that ball from going basically into the seats back onto the field of play, and he did not move, and he had a runner on first. That there was a lot of things going on, and I guess the main thing I'm trying to get out of you guys is like, does that kind of lack of awareness or lack of running out the play, does that kind of stuff really kind of, I mean, we had an old school manager in Tito, right? So I feel like this maybe is set enough for a kind of simple answer, but like we also kind of saw this in the last year with Stuart Fairchild having a situation where he did not run out a ball and the coach, or I think actually wasn't it a sign that he was given and he ignored the sign or something along those
Yeah, I
lines.
think he was given a sign to take and he swung and he popped up.
Right.
I think that's what it was.
Like, dude, these things, is this the stuff that actually is more important than, say, hitting Clay like 475 and, you know, a bunch of home runs?
These type of things are just learning experiences. You know, you hit a ball straight up. It is really difficult to have an idea of where that ball went. It could be in the parking lot or it could be in the catcher's mitt. Like it is a challenging thing because the contact off the bat is so strange. It doesn't feel right. So you don't have that feel of, that's not an excuse. Like you should still run it out, but I get it. Young player, like he just made a mistake, and I'm sure that he'll, get his talking to, and that'll be that. But I don't read too much into that. Now, if it became a habit, or if it was a ground ball, and he just decided I'm not going to run to first base, that's different. But I don't think too much into it, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is why was nobody yelling at him to run? You know, like you feel like the
Good
dugout
point.
should have been like, hey, like this ball's trailing, run. It could go anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about that a little bit on Friday, Clay. So that's why I was guess kind of bringing it up in the context of like spring training, because it's more than just results. It's process over results. Trying to get the guys to buy into the process is basically kind of I guess maybe the ultimate kind of takeaway that I saw from this. Because yeah, we got 50 runs in 3 days, and then the next couple days only 5 runs in 2 days. So it's like, do you just now all of a sudden think that the Reds are no longer able to manufacture any runs? I don't think so. But at the same time, you want to make sure that the approaches, like you're talking about CS, the ability to learn, like you're saying, in whatever situation that is presented, which spring training presents a lot of situations to learn for sure for a lot of these guys. But yeah, that was my kind of main takeaway when I was down there, is just kind of getting a sense of they're here to learn and progress to become major league talent. And it's kind of crazy. Baseball kind of crazy in that way. It takes a long time to get to that level. Sometimes 4 or 5 years for some. So I don't know. Any other thoughts with spring training and processes, stuff like that? There was a top 30 list that was released by MLB Pipeline for the Redlegs, and a bunch of our guys. I mean, we're a big minor league show as well here, Clay. I don't know if you've heard. We try to cover all the levels, all the way from the DSL up to your Louisville Bats and whatnot. So did you see that top 30 list, and what were your kind of takeaways from that?
Yeah, I did see it. The way that I do my watching of prospects, like I'll watch games here and there, but I don't watch them live. I go back and watch a replay so I can skip pitch to pitch to pitch to pitch. A lot of these guys on the list, I just haven't watched yet. I've not watched, a lot of the super young players. I typically wait until they're in Dayton to watch some of the big name prospects. I'll dig through, and whenever the Tortugas are in a place that has video, which it seemed like, I don't know, did they get video last year, or was there just like a lot more video available last year? Some of it's complete garbage, by the way. Especially Chattanooga. My gosh, whoever operates that camera. And so a lot of these younger guys, like I just don't know yet because I haven't watched enough of them. I know that you all have actually been a source for me. I see you all tweeting out highlights, and they're playing in winter leagues and whatnot. You all are grinding on that type of stuff, and I do
This
appreciate
guy
that.
over here.
I try.
But just to kind of focus on some of the bigger names, I guess. I'm looking at it right now. We don't need to talk about Sal Stewart, right? I mean, I think everyone needs to know about him. But like, what prospects do you all want to talk about? Maybe you all can even educate me on some of these people.
Yeah, Ricky, go ahead.
Yeah, well, two of them that I was kind of surprised not on the top 30. Kian Vu for one, the Reds' 9th round pick, I think last year out of Arizona State, All-American. Self-proclaimed defense first guy, but he has a really good bat. Speedster. And then Pablo Nunez, like DSL guy last year. He set the record for the highest on base percentage in the I guess division's history. Like no one's had a higher on base percentage in Dominican Summer League baseball history except Pablo Nunez. I think it was a 531. I think is what it was.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
he killed it out there.
He went to Australia. Him, Hansel Jimenez, and Irvin Murillo, all three, and Pablo was their leadoff hitter, which is kind of crazy to be a team's leadoff hitter when you 19 years old or whatever he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess you can maybe make the argument for Ryan McChrystal just based off like he's a catcher. He's probably the third most major league ready catcher in the system, other than the major league level players we have. And I don't know, like I guess just you mostly see top 30 prospects being starting pitchers and shortstops is like your top guys, and then you kind of trickle down into certain players. Like Carlos Jorge's still on there as an outfielder. He's at 18. Maybe like like when is he going to start to prove it?
Yeah, he's tough because he's a good defender and he has a lot of speed, but I just don't see the bat. He's a small guy. He doesn't have to hit for power, and he's launched some impressive home runs throughout his minor league career, but I don't think that there's enough of a bat there. He makes contact, he'll draw walks. I just struggle to see how it will translate in the long term. One thing about these lists on Pipeline specifically, they tend to overrate recent draftees. Oftentimes, the previous draft, the most recent draft, those players will be much higher, and then you see them adjust after their first year where they're moved. I think Austin Hendrick, for first round draft pick, what feels like 25 years ago, it was like 2 right away, and then he creeps down. And that's something I've noticed with Pipeline is how they overrate kind of recent draftees. And I don't understand that because those are the players you have the longest time to adjust to. So, like, if I were to make a list, it would probably be a lot more AAA, AA, high A guys because we have a bigger sample size. We have a longer time to make adjustments. If you have a DSL guy and he's not on the list, well, he has 5 years to make the list. It's fine. It's no big deal. That's kind of how I view these lists. And the numbers, people will say, oh, well, I think, Jorge should be 21 and Holloman should be 18. Well, like after the top 7, a lot of them are pretty interchangeable within the chunks of 5. It's usually pretty small amounts that change them, and it will adjust throughout the year. So to me, it's fun. It's something to track. It's obviously not law, and you really hope you get in a given year. If you go back each year that they do this, which I do this often, it's one of those January things where it's like a Tuesday night in January. I'm like, oh, who are the top 30 Reds prospects in 2012? And if you look through them, if you get 5 players from a list to end up being productive major leaguers, you're pretty excited. So overall, just looking through the list, just a couple names I might want to touch on. Um, Chase Petty's at 9 now. He has been an interesting prospect that's kind of bounced up and down the list. And I don't know what to make of Chase Petty. I don't think he has a good fastball. And I think that he's somebody who could eventually transition to the bullpen and hope that you find something different out of him. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, to say the least, and I'll just leave that at that. But he's somebody who I don't think I wasn't as high on him when he was higher. And Edwin Arroyo is another player that I was not as high on as everybody else. And he's starting to move down list. Now, I will say that does not mean that I don't think these players can be productive. It's just the players, the people having them in the top 100, for instance, I did not see them as those type of players. Edwin Arroyo, I think, is a really good glove. I do think to an extent, and I may be wrong here, but I think it's gotten a little overrated, like a little too far in one direction of people thinking he's like a platinum glover. I don't know about that, but um, I think he'll probably his best path. If you want to keep him at short, that's fine. But like if Ellie's going to be at short, we don't need to get into how long Ellie will be here or not. But I think he's probably offensively a better profile for second base. I don't think he'll hit for a ton of power. He was coming back off of injury, and shoulder injuries are tough. And I think this year's a really pivotal year for Edwin Arroyo. He's really got to show that he can hit. One thing to remember about prospects that come from west to east in the leagues that they play in out there, when you look at his offensive stats from like Seattle and whatnot, and I know that was years ago, but using him as an example, is a lot of those minor league parks are at altitude, and it is significantly easier to hit out there. WRC Plus can help a little bit in that, but I don't know if it captures it as well in minor league parks. He's still young. Switch hitting shortstop with a good glove. Like, you don't give up on those players right away. But he's on the 40 man now. He'll get optioned this year, most likely out of camp, right? That's one. You got 2 more seasons that you can option him. I don't picture him being major league ready, like for a full role this season. Now, he could get called up in an injury capacity. But, you know, when you add these super young players to the 40 man, the clock starts ticking right away. And that's when it's like, you got to prove it. And he's got to prove something, because I don't know what his trade value would look like if they got to the deadline, they needed something, and they saw him and thought, okay, this is somebody we can move. But that's just something to keep in mind. Is the clock is ticking right now, because they added 2 minor league infielders to the 40 man.
Yeah, I think what concerned me about that was Balcazar being added, because I don't think I was too worried about him being selected, but you still, like, you don't want to take that chance. And Carrick brings up in the chat here that, you know, he hit 270 last year, or over 270 last year. Like, it's not like he was bad. Yeah, but his power was just gone. Which, could you attribute that to the shoulder injury and then recovering from that?
Yeah.
Maybe you could. I'd like to see. I know he mentioned trying to get more loft on the ball and trying to hit more balls in the air, which would be key. And I think what's his name? The ESPN guy, Riley. What's his name? The ESPN writer for the prospect.
McDaniel.
Riley McDaniel. Yes, he had Hector Rodriguez as the Reds' first prospect to be called up this year. I think it's Arroyo, just based off of like positional value. Like, I think the Reds have so much outfield depth that they don't have to rely on Rodriguez coming up. And yeah, it's like I the infield depth, like Arroyo can play second short. Like, that's not a worry. And then Greg chimes in. Has there been any Austin Hendrick talk? Yes, there has. And he was the Reds' number 3 prospect in 2021.
Yeah, and he got in the game today. So yeah, Austin Hendrick's still there. It's still kicking. Player kind of like a pipeline top 30 truther there talking about, because I kind of share some of the same thoughts and agree with a lot of things of like, I don't know how you go and rate a guy like Steele Hall, who has never played an inning of professional baseball, as your number 3 prospect. I understand the tools, because I've seen him in the backfield and he's got a lot of tools. He looks like a guy that could be a good player down the line, but I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer in anytime soon. And that's kind of the crazy part that I find about this.
Honestly. And I'm not a swing expert or anything, but I really don't like his swing. He has a lot of time to tweak it and, kind of iron out the kinks and whatnot. So I don't have any like strong opinions on him, but the swing right now is not exactly built for power. You would, from what I see from the limited amount that I've seen from him, keep in mind, this is extremely limited, more or less just clips on YouTube and Twitter. But that swing's going to need some adjustment, I think. Tooled up player, and that's often what you take in the first round is a tooled up player, and you see what you can mold them into. And another thing, like with Austin Hendrick, when he was placed on number 3, like you have to understand too, like where they're coming from. And he was from New Jersey, which is one of the worst crops of baseball talent. A high school out of New Jersey was always going to take some time, just because the talent that he's playing against there is so different than these other players coming out of Florida or Texas or whatever. And I think that that selection by pipeline, and you can see it with other organizations too. And we'll follow other prospects in other organizations, and a similar path happens there. Yeah,
for sure. And I think pipelines as well place a huge premium on the tape that hasn't been put out there, because you were talking about how you would have AAA and AA guys, but the problem is they put out possibly bad tape. They put out flaws where they've got maybe high strikeout rates than a kid like Steele Hall, who's never had to strike out yet at the professional level. So that's just kind of the example where I'm kind of in the same, type of thought process in terms of ranking prospects. And it should be a little bit more of a premium. If you got a guy who's going to help you sooner than later, like that should be a premium in terms of like, like a guy like I feel Hector Rodriguez could be, possibly higher up there because he could help you sooner than later, or, whomever.
I think that one thing that last thing on pipeline and how they do whatever they do, like at Just Baseball, we do our top 100, and Aram Layton does that. And I talk to him often about it and how he kind of adjusts from when he first did it in 2021 until now. And one thing that he does that I like a lot is he'll put players in there that their ceiling isn't great. But when you look at top 100 list, and I did a project on this, seeing like what percent end up being over a 10 WAR player, 5 WAR player, whatever throughout their careers. It's a pretty low percentage. So sometimes getting the 1.5, 2 WAR player that sticks around for 7 years as a top 100 prospect, like that's still really good. And those players should be ranked higher than somebody who is a ton of power, a ton of strikeout. You don't really know what he is. He's in single A. Like, how do you value those 2 players? You know what I mean? Like it's a difficult thing to do. I just like doing high floor players that have a career. Like those players should be bumped up in my mind because of the likelihood of them A, becoming a major leaguer, and B, sticking around.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess one guy that I would say that you should keep an eye on, because I think you asked that question a little bit a while ago, is I'm really big on like the Kianvu and the Mason Nevilles that were drafted last year. I believe both of them 4th round pick, I believe, Mason Neville, and Kianvu 9th round. But they are outfielders, and I know that you've come on the show and put on tape, Clay, that you're not necessarily high on our minor league outfield depth. But I think those guys who are in, I think, Daytona at the moment, maybe in Dayton next year or this year in 2026, I think they could be a part of what I like to call the class of 2027, which is at the head of that is probably Alfredo Gino. and a couple other guys that are going to be coming through. And I think that is where, and I think even Carrick put in the chat, that is where kind of like the real kind of strength of our system is right now. No offense to AA guys or the AAA guys in terms of the offensive players, but like I think that might be the next wave of talent that hopefully can sustain the Major League Ball club for some time.
Yeah, I didn't really love the AAA or the upper minors depth going in, on paper starting today. Now we can see stuff change. Somebody has a swing change out of nowhere and they look like a different player. Or this guy looks totally different and whatnot. And but in terms of player gets hurt, who comes up, like I like Reese Hines just fine and Blake Dunn and those guys. I was talking more about, like you were saying, the next wave, but those lower minors guys have a lot of intrigue. But the issue is, and why I don't watch too much of the lower minors, besides just really specific players, is because when you get to double A, you start to see a different type of spin, a higher level of pitcher. Double A baseball is like pretty good. Like you have to be a legitimate arm to get to double A. And you start to see different spin. And then you see guys who are potential major leaguers. Like when you're in single A, you may see one guy a week. That's an arm that makes it to the majors. When you're in double A, like you've seen guys who have been there. And especially when you get to triple A, you see guys that may have had 4 or 5 different stints in the majors and, they're fringe guys. So you see a lot of players hit that wall in double A. They may take a year to adjust. The second half stats look much better than the first, things of that nature. So I usually don't try to get too amped up on a prospect until they've reached double A.
That's fair. And then they also switched the ball at AAA, right, to the Major League Ball. So there's even a jump there from double to triple.
In the leagues you play in, produce different amounts of power. The Southern League, which is what Chattanooga plays in, is more difficult to hit than other leagues. And each of them have their nuances that you have to try to remember and apply, which becomes difficult enough.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I guess if I had to highlight one player that I'm looking on that list that's in that next tier of prospects, not the ones that are kind of coming up within the next year or two, I'm really looking at as far as like young talent, like Starlin Torres, pitcher. It was an ACL last year. It's got really good stuff, good fastball, good slider, good changeup. And he has really good command, which the scouts are very high on. He was unranked last year. Now he's at 25. I think he goes even higher, like really soon. I think he's probably going to start the year out in Daytona, but there's a chance you see Dayton just based off of his ability. And then Hansel Jimenez, shortstop, third base. I've kind of put this take out there. I see a lot of like a young, like Cleveland Brandon Phillips in him, like with his defense. Not specifically known for having a great bat, but he probably doesn't stick it short. He probably moves to second base or third base. He's kind of a taller kid too. He's 6'1", so I could see a corner infield spot like third base being a spot. But those two are, at least on Pipeline, are rated for 2029, which that could happen sooner, but who knows.
And one thing about, if you've ever seen video from like the DSL, I completely throw out walk rates. I could not care less how much a player walks. And and I know we were talking about on base percentage with, I think it was Lopez earlier. That's good, but if you watch the DSL, like you see some horrible pitching, horrible, not even close, not competitive pitches. So for me, that if you don't have a good walk rate, it's kind of like we're saying with spring training. If it's bad offense, worrisome. If it's great, asterisk. Like if you have a bad walk rate in the DSL, that's concerning because everyone should have a good walk rate if you see how wild some of these pitchers are. And that's why, you have to grade it all on the curve. DSL stats look totally different than even low A. Dayton players are going to look great when they're in the DSL. They get to Dayton and it's just a different game, especially as you get further up in the minors. So I always take the DSL and all those type of rookie league stats with a grain of salt. There's certain things you can take away, exit velocities you may see, but I don't have enough video to really have much of an opinion on many of those players.
Yeah, so Torres, his rookie season, so I guess was first full season in 24. He pitched in the DSL. He pitched one season in the DSL too. He played in 13 games with the DSL Reds. He played in one game with the DSL Rojas. 54 in the third innings. He had 49 strikeouts and 13 walks, a 1.78
that's
batting
strong.
average against him, and he had a 1.49 ERA.
Yeah,
So
strong.
he's one I think he can really start to climb. He's a little bit undersized, but he's also I think 19, maybe 20. Could grow. Who knows? Ellie was kind of a late grower too, so just based off of his stuff, though, he's got great command of his pitches.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, like I said, like we pointed out, it's kind of a temporary thing. It doesn't necessarily predict the future entirely because unfortunately for Ricky's Austin Hendrick, he's not on the top 30 anymore. So
yeah, you could go back if you go back in time. Like I like to go back and look at the previous top fives to see where they're at now. And in 2021, you had Nick Lodolo, Hunter Greene, Austin Hendrick, Tyler Stevenson, and Jonathan India as your top five. And then you go to 2020, you had Nick Lodolo, Hunter Greene, Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India, Jose Barrero. And then 2022, Brandon Williamson was the top five, Matt McClain at 4, Ellie at 3, Lodolo 2, Hunter Greene at 1. And then most notably, 2023's class was really good. You had Ellie at 1, Marte at 2, Edwin Arroyo at 3, Cam Collier at 4, Spencer Steer at 5, and then Matt McClain 6, CES 7, Chase Petty 8, Sal Stewart 9, Brandon Williamson 10, Andrew Abbott 11. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And there's Carlos Jorge still there at 16, Reese Hines at 18, Leo Balcazar at 24, Alfredo Duno at 25, Hector Rodriguez at 27. So there's some talent that there seemed to be like a flip that switched around 2021 where they started, I guess, maybe getting better at scouting. And a lot of the more prospects are sticking around. And they're not really trading as many prospects either.
It could be. Yeah. Any other thoughts you guys got on this top 30 pipeline list? All right, but have you been watching the World Baseball Classic at all, Clay? I feel like we've got a good handful of guys from the Reds organization. Our guy Edwin Arroyo have been talking about. I don't think he has played yet, which is unfortunate. But our guy Eugenio Suarez is done well, and also a big deep dive in our prospects. Rigerte Marite for the Netherlands, or I think he was born in the Curacao. So they got that Curacao Netherlands has been pitching well. So like shout out to him. I don't know exactly if you're familiar with his game, but we are starting to learn more. We're starting to learn more and more about Marite. Our guy Carrick has been talking about him as well, but he's probably way down. I think down the line you'll start hearing maybe hopefully more about him. But for that, for now, the World Baseball Classic has been going. Have you been taking in any games, Clay?
I watched the USA game, and I'm going to start watching more. I just haven't really had the opportunity over this weekend. It was busy, but you all, with like your knowledge of some of these minor leaguers and how you all are putting the stats out and the videos that you find is truly awesome. Like I know how hard it is to keep up with it. I've tried, and it's just too much for me with what I have going on. But it is so valuable that you all do that, and I know I appreciate it. And Carrick's always updating me on guys, which is something I also appreciate. So I'm glad that you all know, and I'll be coming to you all for questions about these players as they kind of grow through the system.
Yeah, I think it's Rieteri Marite. I think it's how you pronounce it with the Netherlands. Pronounce, I think the J is a Y, so Rieteri Marite.
Yeah, shout out to him. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the source. We're trying to be the only podcast that covers the Reds minor leagues from DSL to AAA exclusively. So I guess shout out to us on that, and we'll be hopefully coming to you about that.
Pat on the back.
Yeah, really soon. But it's been exciting. I guess I'm waiting till they get to that knockout rounds because it's kind of like USA has been. I wouldn't say going through the motions, but like it was 8-5 against Brazil until the 9th inning, and they got those 7 runs to make it a little more lopsided. And then they, obviously went and lost, they were down 1-0 to Great Britain after the home run to lead off the game. So I don't know. I guess I'm waiting till the minnows are gone and the big boys are there in the Final Four, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, it was awesome to see Suarez just hit an absolute nuke.
Yeah, for sure. But you guys got any other thoughts before we wrap this thing up? We really appreciate your time, Clay, talking to us again. I think you're becoming a regular guest on here. We really appreciate that with your insight on the Reds and everything baseball. We appreciate you. Check out his stuff at Just Baseball. He says that he's got to get to work after this, so we won't take up his time too much anymore, so we can get
links
to it.
are in the description.
Yes, check his stuff out at Just Baseball and all that, and we really appreciate it again. And Ricky, if you're ready, we'll sign off with our usual Go Reds.
Go Reds.